Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show, the Arsenal edition. This is your host, Dean, and today I am here with Gabby. How's it going, Gabby?
Good. Not great, but it's good.
We'll manage that. We'll manage that. Well, before we get into the thing that's making us a little, as the kids say these days, demure. We're here to talk about Arsenal Brighton, which ended 1-1, and we're going to get into the details of that game. But we haven't had a chance to talk about the transfer window because it just ended yesterday as of the time of recording. And the final move for Arsenal yesterday was getting Raheem Sterling, your Jamaican brethren. And I know you're probably ecstatic about that. I'm more ecstatic about the fact that he's an extremely talented and excellent footballer, but that's neither here nor there. But let's talk about the transfer window in general. We're just going to do high level stuff here because I'm sure folks that listen to this probably listen to other things or read other things and they're aware of everything that's happened. But I feel an obligation to at least touch on this stuff before we get into the game itself. Plus, I don't really want to talk about the game because it's going to piss me off, but that'll happen in a second. But we had Calafiori come in, Marino come in, then promptly get crocked by your boy, Big Gabby.
Listen,
Hey, listen, it happened. Accident or not, it happened.
I can't believe he did it.
Crazy behavior, unhinged behavior. It'd be one thing if
fell on him and
right.
almost broke his shoulder.
Like it'd be one thing if it was like a midfielder that did that to the guy. Like, okay, it's competition. I see what you're doing here, but bro, you just broke a new signing for no reason, bro.
Oh my God.
Anywho, David Raya technically just joined the club on a permanent deal this summer. Neto from Bournemouth joined on loan after we couldn't get Joan Garcia to replace Aaron Ramsdale, who's one of our outs. And speaking of the other outs, we'll start with Ramsdale, 18 million to Southampton, rising up to 25 with add-ons and all the rest. Eddie Nketiah is over at Crystal Palace now. I'm sure he wishes he was at Fulham, where Emil Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson are. So Fulham is basically Arsenal South, I guess, at this point.
Listen, I'm locked into Haaland FC right now because all our people are everywhere. I'm like, go and smash it. Wherever you at, I love that for you.
Indeed. This is the time of the year when I typically try to make my way to London. And because of how difficult it is to get Arsenal tickets, I'm pretty sure I'll be watching Crystal Palace and/or Fulham while I'm there, if I can't get Arsenal tickets, but that would be very exciting either way. I might just do that anyway. That might be my reason to go, to be honest, because Haaland FC.
This nigga just called us broke. He's like, I'm going to be off to London going to watch Arsenal.
Yeah, I had to abandon many children for this privilege, but that's okay. But how would you rate the transfer window after all said and done? On a grade scale, you can say your thing, but on a grade scale, I want a grade, like an F, a C, a D, whatever.
Okay, I was gonna give it a number scale. Okay, so a grade scale. I saw you give it an A. What would I originally gave it a 7.5? What would that be? Like a C plus, a B minus?
Like a B minusish, yeah. So
I slept on it, and I think that it's actually like maybe A minus or B plus. I'll give it that. And just because if you start with the outgoings, I think Eddie did exactly what he had to do. I mean, there's still a sneak in there that's still in our squad, but that's not the point. The rest of the people who needed to get out, they all got out.
Right.
And I love that. And we got good money for most of them. The only person we didn't get money for is Reece Nelson, who went on a straight loan. And Kieran Tierney. He's still here.
because he's crocked.
Just here.
Yeah, but with Reece, you can sort of play that off as we're basically using his salary to pay Raheem Sterling because we're not paying his full salary from Chelsea. So we just replaced a weaker player with a better player with more experience and all that. So I'm pretty excited. I personally think it's an A++ because hands up, I've been watching Arsenal for a long time now. I'm not going to date myself on the pod. This is the best transfer window I've ever seen in my life. Like
he filled every spot that we needed.
Pretty much. I don't think that's ever happened in my time supporting the team. And not only did he, if you had told me at the beginning of the window that we could get Raheem Sterling on a loan.
For half his wages?
Yeah, without a loan fee. I'd be very confused at that prospect, but I'd also be very excited about it because the reason why I was like everybody else looking at all these other targets is because we figured, based on our recruiting profiles, we're probably going to go for a younger player. So like one of Brighton's wingers, for instance, since they have 1,000 of them apparently. But if that wasn't available, if the guy that you wanted to go big on wasn't available in this window, getting Raheem Sterling or 4-time Premier League champion, a guy that's played at Liverpool, City, and Chelsea, no matter what you think of those clubs. Like, you have to be good to play for those clubs, or you have to be somewhat good for them. Well, maybe not Chelsea anymore because they're fucking weird. But like people compared him to, you see a lot of the Twitter jokes comparing him to Nicolas Anelka. Nicolas Anelka was really fucking good. That's why he played for so many clubs. There was always someone interested in paying him to play football. If you're not good, people don't want to pay you to play football, no matter what you've done. So I'm really excited about it. The Merino thing was really exciting because of the effect I thought it would have on Martinelli.
Agreed.
But we have to wait for that to see that in the future.
That took the wind out of the sails right there.
It did. Like, honestly, I wouldn't say perfectly fine. I would have thought Calafiori signing Raya permanently, Timber coming back, and Merino was a good window. That would have been a B for me. But because Merino got hurt on the final day of the window, I was like, just for the mood in the fan base, for the mood at the club, we need something else. And the something else was, something else's don't get better than this. Like, Raheem Sterling as an afterthought on the final day of the oh my God, I'm so excited about it. Like, I don't know. I just think he's a really underrated player. I think people have always given him.
Listen, I can wax lyrical about like Raheem Sterling. He's always been my hear me out at Arsenal. Always. People were talking about Mudryk and all that. So I was like, listen, those players are good, sure, but just hear me out on Raheem Sterling. I'm telling you, he gives you everything that you need. He gives you everything that you need, and he's such an intelligent player. Like, he is. He's such an intelligent player. I just know he's going to smash it here. And that, if anybody hasn't watched the announcement video, please go watch it. It's so good. 10 of 10, no notes.
Like,
he's chatting shit already.
Is that the only announcement video we did this summer? Like, I don't feel like we did a lot of, like, really cool, produced announcement videos. It was just high and by stuff. Like, I'm here now type shit.
We used all our budget on Declan Rice last summer.
Yeah, motherfuckers paid an Afrobeats artist and all that. And it was a lot. It was a lot on that. 100 million, a lot. But we'll probably get into more detail on Raheem and the rest of the signings as they play more over the season. But for now, let's talk about today. Today, Brighton came to the Emirates. I don't know that I consider them our bogey team anymore. I feel like we're clearly better than them. Arteta has beat them a couple different times at this point, regardless of who was coaching them. But now they have the new coach, the youngest coach in the Premier League, a 31-year-old named Fabian Herzler. And they've started the season pretty well. But if I'm being honest with you, I expected us to turn them over in this game. What were you expecting?
I feel like there's a lot of people who expected us to turn them over. Like, coach did his pre-game live on Instagram, and he said 3-1. That was his prediction. And I never feel that way about Brighton because I always feel like we're gonna win or we should win, but they just seem to be so tricky sometimes. So I'm like, this game is gonna be closer than it should be. Right. And we're still gonna win, but it's gonna be closer than it should be. So I was hoping for a 2-0 because I want a clean sheet because I'm coming for that Chelsea record. I don't give a fuck.
That's my main goal this year. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I want us to break that record, but conceding against Brighton at home makes me feel like, okay, we're kind of behind the 8 ball on that one. But I want the team to concede less than 15 goals this season. I think it's possible. We have all these great defenders. Why can't it happen?
I believe.
Yes. As for the lineup, actually, you know what? Back to Brighton real quick. I mentioned a little earlier about all the wingers and players they have that we might be interested in, or we might have been interested in before we did the Sterling deal. Which one of them were you a fan of, or are you a fan of?
Yeah, Adingra, for sure.
Adingra?
100%. And I thought for sure we could get him, too, because he wasn't starting. I do think he should have started, but, they bought Minta, and he's been playing well for them. I don't think he played well in that last game, though. I'm going to just say that. And Adingra came on and, scored or assisted? I can't remember.
Yeah, assisted the winner, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, go get him. I know it's difficult to deal with Brighton, and you just cannot go to them at the end of the window and expect to get what you want without paying out the wazoo. But I was like, that's the guy. If you're not going to go get the original targets that you want, go get him.
All right. The original target, even Shesko didn't really feel like an original target. He felt like a market opportunity.
Market opportunity for sure.
So I think it was just one of those, I think Edu did a really good job to touch on the transfer window once more, because I just feel as if they did groundwork on Merino, they did groundwork on Calafiori, but everything else that happened was just, okay, we're scrambling here, we're just figuring it out on the fly, and I think he did a good job. Before
we get to the game, I said this to someone yesterday. I was like, I know this is like conspiracy theory thing, but like genuinely this transfer window, so many of the teams or so many of the players that like we all thought were going to move did not go anywhere. They just stayed at the teams that they're at. And I was so adamant that for this was a summer that one domino had to fall to like make the others fall. And I felt it was Osimhen. If Osimhen goes to PSG or Chelsea or wherever, that makes something shake loose everywhere. Like it just it reverberates everywhere. And because that didn't happen, then nothing else happened. And
Nothing
I
else
was
happened.
like,
Yeah.
this is weird. Like
Yeah.
Sesko didn't move, Osimhen didn't move. Like it was just like a very Nico Williams didn't move. It was just a weird summer.
Yeah, indeed it was. And considering all that, I think Edu and Arteta and the rest of the team did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But today's lineup, there's a lot of clamor based on the way the season has gone so far for Leandro Trossard to start. Um, I personally wasn't of the opinion that he should start. I like him coming off the bench. But once Marino got hurt, even though I'm not necessarily sure he would have started today because he just got to the club, but once he got hurt, I just kind of thought to myself, okay, the guy that's essentially going to unlock Martinelli's, form again in this team is not going to be around for a couple of weeks. So you might as well play with the guy that seems to be able to fit around other players a little bit better and bring Martinelli on as the counter punch later on in the game. What did you make of it? What did you make of the lineup? Were you happy with the decision to start Trossard?
I was. I'm very adamant that Arteta should prioritize relationships, like prioritize chemistry between players. And I think that Kai has way more chemistry with Trossard than he has with Martinelli. They just don't play well together. And I was like, I know there's like some people say like Trossard is better off the bench and stuff like that, but I was like, we were creating a lot of chances in that first half, like in that first 15 minutes or so. And I think
Right.
Trossard was like involved in at least one of them that we
Right.
absolutely should have scored. And I was like,
But but I feel like people like because Martinelli doesn't have he hasn't had any end product this season. It feels as if we just dismiss the things that he does do well. Because there are frustrating moments. I'm not going to deny that. There are times when he probably could have shot and he took an extra touch, or there are times when he could have released the ball and, or there are times when he played a pass and it was too long. But he does do a lot of good things. I can think of a lot of good things he's done this season. And ultimately, I think Trossard, like any other substitute, benefits from having a guy run the fullback into dirt for 70 minutes, then he comes on and just, scores a winner. You know, Even so, it's a good problem to have. They're both two players that I trust. I think with Arteta, if you ask him, even though he started Trossard today, I'm going to guess that he still would have preferred to start Martinelli because he just likes the intensity that Martinelli brings. Martinelli brings an intensity to our press. He's a better defensive player, essentially. Trossard does his best. He's not a weak link by any means, but Martinelli is clearly better at that side of the game than he is. But at the end of the day, as a forward player, what we want from you is goals and assists. So I wasn't mad to see Trossard, but I didn't necessarily expect it, I don't think.
Listen, I'm not a GA merchant because I'm a Kai Havertz fan. But like it's not even just like GA contribution. It's more for me, it's more final ball. It's more final ball because I feel like Martinelli's final ball has just been lacking for the last like season. And the beginning of this season too. Like he does the good stuff well, and then when it's time for that killer instinct, just like the assist or the key pass or whatever, it never comes off. And I don't know if it's confidence or what, but yeah. When Moreno comes, we'll see.
Yeah, I have a theory on it because I feel as if the last time Martinelli was consistently good was when Xhaka was around. And what's the difference between Xhaka and Rice? Xhaka is left-footed. Rice is right-footed. Regardless of the kind of player you are, that affects the angles that you use to relate to other players on the pitch. When Marino, who's also left-footed, is there, or when Xhaka was there, the angles at which Martinelli gets the ball means that he's basically running onto the ball into the area of the field where he's most comfortable, which is basically in front of goal. So I feel as if we're going to see, it will come up later this season, but I think we're going to see him play central quite a bit, especially with Sterling in the fold now. And I just think because Rice is a right-footed player and he's the one playing left 8 next to Martinelli, those passes naturally go out towards the corner flag as opposed to in towards goal. And that alone is enough to affect Martinelli's efficiency when it comes to running in on goal.
It affects his movement a lot.
Right. It's the extra touch you got to take to turn your body the right way to run with the ball and all that stuff. And I think we'll simplify his decision making and bring his instinctual nature back out and his efficiency back out once we have the right person next to him. And again, putting Marino in makes everybody happy, it seems, because, a huge chunk of the fan base, including you, don't want 5 as the
I need
DM.
to see Declan Rice back at the 6, but we'll get
Exactly.
to that.
So if Declan Rice moves back and Marino moves in, I think that helps Martinelli. That helps our defensive transitions. It helps a lot of stuff. Now, how that affects build-up, we'll have to find out when it happens. But I'm not particularly worried about it, to be honest. But you hinted at earlier, the first 10 minutes of the game were really impressive from Arsenal. I immediately, Saka was immediately aggressive with Hinshelwood, Brighton's left back. I don't know. He was being left back. That was what was going on, because Saka was cooking this boy. At that stage, I kind of thought it was not necessarily going to be an easy game, but I thought it was going to be a more fluid performance. What were you thinking at the time?
We were cooking that. We were cooking that early, and all I could think about was like, I've seen this before, and I need Arsenal to put one of the chances away to relieve the pressure, because every time we let a team like settle in, then we like get stuck on like slower build-up play, and we don't play as fluid. But those early chances were good. Saka was cooking him. There was this one turn where he just like genuinely just gets around him quick, runs down the byline, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna score. Like,
all right. But
he was cooking him early.
Yeah, but somehow we didn't. I particularly like the chance that Odegaard created for him with the lob pass, where he chipped it over. And
it's my favorite type of pass.
Yes,
it's my favorite type of pass.
That is a pass. I remember Michael Laudrup used to do that a lot back in the 90s. And essentially, when I'm judging a playmaker, when I'm watching a player that people call a creative playmaking type of player for the first time, and I'm watching this comp, if I don't see that pass in the bunch, I'm like, nah, he not real. He not about it. Like, I need that.
And we've literally been talking about this for weeks with one of my best friends. I wish they would just do the ding pass more. Because you have to be so precise when you do it. So that's how you know you're a real playmaker. The ding pass is so good. It's just aesthetically pleasing, and it takes out so many defenders.
Yeah, I just think it's like wildly efficient, and people like, I think part of what made Patrick Vieira so good back in the day was his use of what I like to call the vertical space in the game. Like, there's a lot of space over players if you have the touch to control, whether you're in midfield, whether you're in the box. If you can get the ball over player, you just eliminate people. And I love players that, have the spatial awareness and technique to do that stuff. That said, that was the chance. That was the chance where I felt like Saka should have just blasted it. He side-footed it. And that was a shame. In any event, I feel like a very big game. We're going to talk referees a lot, which I hate to do, but we kind of have to, given the way this game went. I really hate to do it, but we have to do it. But I think the first big referee moment in this game was not even the red card that came later. We'll talk about that. It was when Minta kicked Odegaard. There was a 50-50. And I don't know that I think it was a yellow card foul or anything like that. It was accidental. It wasn't malicious. But in that moment, I thought to myself, basically, Odegaard was done after that. He wasn't really good on the ball from that moment.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
He was limping a little bit after that as well.
Yeah, he was limping for a bit. He needed help. He needed the physios to come on and look at him. And, obviously he's going to stay on because, he's a captain and, he's a tough guy and all that. But I don't think he was ever really in the game after that. He was just a second slow with all his touches, and he was a little sluggish. And he wasn't as aggressive in his tackles and in the press. And that was a shame because his backup at the moment is still Ethan, and I kind of feel like
I was kind of hoping to see. I know Arteta was not gonna like throw him in there, but I was like, it might be something to see.
I got to be honest with you. I put it in the group chat. I was like, Odegaard is cooked. We need to bring him out. And someone asked me, okay, so who comes on? I'm like, Ethan. That's his replacement.
Trust him. I mean, listen, Pep was trusting Oscar Bob before he broke his leg, unfortunately for him. But throw him on there. Let's see what he got.
Right. But just generally, I guess we can get into the refereeing stuff now. I think this was one of the classic. We've seen this game 1,000 times at the Emirates, where the referee seems to be very pedantic with the home team, Arsenal's challenges, but the away team gets this benefit of the doubt. Like, I remember Hinshelwood kicking Saka a couple times. There was an elbow, again, not malicious, but a foul is a foul. There was an elbow to Saka's head at one point. There was a high boot near Saka's head at one point. None of these got called. None of them. There was a João Pedro kicking the ball after he had gone out for a throw-in. He just boots it. From what I recall,
I'll get to that.
And what we're about to learn in a couple minutes after this, that is a yellow card offense, and he didn't get booked for that. There was a Veltman basically like wrestling Trossard to the ground at some point. So essentially, after the first 10 to 15 minutes where Arsenal dominated, I wanted to say that in my head, I think Brighton moved their lineup a bit. So they played a high line. They tried to compress the space that Saka was receiving the ball in. That helped them. But I feel like what helped them really much more was the refereeing. I thought it was way too permissive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do say that all the time, though. You specifically say that all the time about the Emirates. For some reason, people can come to the Emirates and just do whatever they want, whatever.
It's strange.
It's I hate talking about referees. They should never ever be the main character, but for some reason in the Prem, they always are, especially in Arsenal games. And I say that as an Arsenal fan. Of course, I'm going to be biased,
Right.
but like some of the decisions that we have go against us at least once in a season, at least one every season, is just egregious. Like the two yellows in the same phase of play for Martinelli, the Tomiyasu getting his face stomped on, and like almost his like ankle broken by Nicholas Jackson last season. Like the things that I have seen, the David Luiz red card was crazy. Like these are the things that and I get so upset because we both know that people will, justify and say, oh, letter of the law, red card, whatever. And fair enough. We'll get to that with Declan Rice. But all we're asking for is consistency. Right. That's all we're asking for. If you're going to give it to us, give it to the opponent as well, which is exactly what Mikel said in his post-match interview. It's exactly what he said. He said if it's a second yellow for Declan Rice, then it should be a red for him as well, for Veltman as well. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense all the time. And Saka said it as well in his post-match interview. And I can't imagine being one of the players on the pitch because it's just like, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And it has to play into the way that you actually play on the pitch. We'll get to that second half. But even in the second half, when we should have scored, Kai missed or had a good save versus I'm not going to be able to say his name, that goalkeeper's name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Verbruggen, yeah, Bart Verbruggen. Yes, you're welcome.
and then it drops to Saka. He also doesn't score, but he gets fouled, and everyone's like, "Well, if he goes down, he'll get the pen." Are you sure he'll get the pen? Are you sure?
No.
Because I've seen many times Saka go down and not get a penalty.
I mean, we saw it in week 1 when Totti basically bear hugged him. I didn't think that was a pen at the time, but I mean, clearly, whether he goes down or not, he's not getting these calls.
And even more, I mean, this is not a pen one, but even more egregious. We saw it in the Champions League versus Bayern. That was a pen.
That was a pen.
That was a pen. But we Arsenal players don't get the benefit of the doubt, even at home, especially at home, which is just crazy to me. It's just crazy.
It's egregious.
You know that is going to change the game. We have literally seen last season, Kovacic goes studs up into Odegaard's ankle, already on a yellow, and not get a second yellow because the excuse that people gave was, oh, the referee doesn't want to be the main character. They don't want to change the game. They want the players to decide the game. Well, you decided the game in this one.
Shit. Different ref, but same lanky pale white dude doing bullshit. Let's talk about something positive. We actually scored a goal in this game, and it was a challenge between Saka and Lewis Dunk because I think a general trend in this game was we played a lot of switches, which we kind of saw that developing in preseason, where we'd play the switch to one of the wingers and have them take their man 1v1, and Saka got a lot of those. Trossard got one that he crossed to Odegaard, and the finish wasn't good enough. That probably should have been a goal, I thought, in the first half. But the switches were coming from the defenders, they were coming from midfielders, and I don't know that you can call Raya playing from one side of the box to the other team's half a switch, but it was essentially a ball at 50-50 between him and Lewis Dunk, who was a center back, who was like 6'4", and he bumped Saka a little bit, and I immediately had Mustafi versus Aguero flashbacks from the FA Cup semifinal many years ago at Wembley. That shit pissed me off so bad. Like, I think I was already done with Mustafi at that point, but that was the point where I was like thinking homicidal shit about someone I didn't know. Like, man, if I catch this nigga in the streets, I'm a fucking murk him. I'm a murk this nigga, man.
Mustafi has a habit of doing that to you.
Like, yeah, I mean, like I see that you're not judging me because you understand. Like, that nigga was so bad.
Too.
He was so bad. But Lewis Dunk kind of pulled the same thing because there's no way he should be losing the 50-50 with Bukayo Saka. And Bukayo Saka bumps him, plays the ball into Kai Havertz's path, and a wonderful finish from your boy. I didn't think he had it in him.
As soon as it left his foot, I was like, I think he got that on frame. And then when I was like, those are the finishes that like I expect him to score, but not the other ones, which is funny enough because like there's a really nice, I was talking about chemistry earlier, but there's a really nice like chemistry developing between Saka and Kai Havertz, and I love to see it. Genuinely, they
Yes.
look for each other in every opportunity. It's almost like a Özil Alexis thing, but they're closer to each other, and I just like, yeah, I love it. It's. I think they're gonna have a lot of the goal scoring prowess like on their shoulders this season for sure.
Yeah, I think they're a duo we can definitely rely on. I'm very comfortable injuries permitting. I think Kai definitely gets over 20 this year. Injuries permitting.
I
Like
agree.
he's based on well, is it 2 goals so far this
Two of
season?
three.
Two
Yeah.
out of three. Okay, yeah. So if he continues that pace, we're gonna have a great season. And Saka, that's his third assist of the season, I think.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's his third assist. So yeah, maybe we don't have the striker or a striker, but the goals keep going in. I have no complaints. That's the other thing. In addition to us setting, there were 5 games last season where we didn't score a goal. I want us to score a goal regardless of the result. I want us to score a goal in every game this season, and I want us to
Agreed.
try to break that Chelsea defensive record. But it was a great goal, great goal. I again, at this point, I'm not really surprised to see Kai score, but I'm still a little surprised when he scores after taking more than one touch. So,
Listen, sometimes when you just turn his like he's so much better when he's instinctual and he turns his
right,
brain off.
right,
When
right.
he has to think too hard, like we'll get to that. We'll get to that second half where we have that chance. But the moment after Saka doesn't score and the ball comes back to Kai, he like just couldn't contort his body to try like he was thinking like 3 steps ahead of what he should be doing. And we lost
He,
the ball and I was just like,
yeah,
stop thinking so hard.
yeah,
Just stop thinking.
he fell over like a giraffe that was given a fucking book to read or some shit, man. It was fucking crazy. But
Oh my
ha-
god.
halftime came around. Essentially, as I said earlier, after about the 15th minute, it was essentially a broken game. It wasn't a very entertaining half of football. The goal was beautiful, but short of that, once Brighton realized that they could kick Arsenal with very little consequence, the game kind of got very sloppy and messy, and the ref was the main character. Coach was actually at the game. He was on Instagram Live before the game, and he will also be uh, essentially putting out a dispatch of sorts that you can find on the YouTube channel later. Uh, but he was texting directly from the game and he was fuming, like to the point where those of us that live in the States were like, bro, can you calm down? It's 7 a.m. over here. Like
I
all this
I saw
negativity,
some of his
man.
tweets.
It was too
Oh my
much, man. He was
god.
so angry. And honestly, in some ways, I kind of feel like even though the ref was the cause of the anger, in a lot of ways, the level of his anger and some other people on my phone I feel as if we almost brought that Declan Rice card on us. We're like, he's gonna do something awful, and we were so mad about it that we almost like willed
Yeah.
it into existence. It's like, guys, leave the anxiety alone and just focus on the game. We were winning at the time. It was
They were
good.
getting
Life was good.
emotional for
People are
sure.
getting emotional. People are getting emotional, and that's fair because we're all human. We deserve to get emotional when we get upset about things. But halftime came around. Were you anticipating any changes? Did you think we needed to change anything?
I wasn't anticipating any changes. I didn't think it was gonna happen in the halftime, but I did want to see a change somewhere because I knew Trossard was going to be coming off. If not for the red card, Trossard was going to be coming off around the 60th minute, 70th
Right.
minute for Martinelli anyway. But I really want to see Georgie. Like we needed to play some balls over the top or like just get over the defense. And I
Right.
just didn't think we were doing that enough. Declan Rice was ghosting in at the left half space as he normally does because that's not his position. And I was just like, we need to like Kai and Saka are doing their thing, but we need to get the left side involved, but also like we just need to bypass some of these like mid blocks or some of these low blocks. Like I know they're playing a high line, but like you just need to bypass some of these defenders. Don't
Yeah.
try to like one-on-one take everybody on or like intricate pass them through. Like sometimes you just need to go over them. You need to give them something else to worry about. We weren't
Absolutely.
doing that enough, and I think that we were getting joy when we did do that.
Yes. Yes.
So
I
that's what I
completely
wanted to see.
agree.
But
I
yeah,
completely
then the
agree. I
red
think
card came.
yeah, from a tactical standpoint, we did not take advantage of their high line enough. But I don't think, because if Mikel thought for sure that they'd be playing the high line, he would have started Martinelli. But he didn't because he felt they were going to play more of a mid block, which is how they started the game, except that we pushed them back so deep in the first 15 minutes. So they decided to move their lineup. And at that point, we just didn't react well enough to that. The switches were good, but we weren't really playing over the top enough. So you're absolutely right on that. I also, again, as I stated earlier, I wanted a cheeky Odegaard sub. I just felt like he had gotten kicked in a way that just like, Gabby, did you play back in the day? Do you play soccer?
No, bro. I mean,
Okay.
I did. I mean, technically, I did, but like, no.
Right. No. So I played to a
White
halfway
kids ain't
decent
passing
level.
to you in suburbia. Like, I was like, sitting on the bench. I won't do this shit no more.
Yeah, but at any level of the sport, certain days like you get kicked in a certain way and your game is just done. You might not be injured, but you're just kind of done. You're just kind of like,
Yeah.
I really wish I could go sit down right now. Or I just want to go put some ice on this. Like I'm in pain, but I can move, but I'm in pain. And I could see that body language with him. He wasn't himself after Mintet kicked him, you know. So I thought maybe we could sub him, but I wasn't surprised that didn't happen. Let's jump right into the second half. I think the first notable incident was the Declan Rice red card. Um, as I recall it, Brighton had sort of recovered possession in their corner, and that corner we need to burn some sage in that corner because that's the same corner where Mosquera choked Havertz and put a finger up someone's booty, and and now we're getting red cards for shit that honestly is like utterly pedantic. Because here's how I remember things happening: the ref blows the whistle, Veltman does not stop the ball, he rolls it forward, the ball is still rolling. It rolls past Rice. It actually touches Rice. The ball touches him while he's not aware. He's already facing his own side of the field to walk backwards. The ball touches him. He flicks a foot out at it and changes the course of the ball.
Yeah.
And as he's doing that, Veltman had come up to him to kick the ball. Well, Veltman knew what he was doing. He kicks Rice. He basically kicks Rice dead in the knee, which is violent conduct by my book. Then again, if we're talking about Rice delayed the restart, you can't restart when the ball is moving. The ball has to be stationary. That is from the laws of the game. Okay, I might have the editor put the laws of the game up over my face while we talk about this, but the ball has to be stationary. We've seen so many times, we see it in every game where someone tries to take a quick free kick and the ref is like, nah, ball was moving, take it back. And that's what would have happened. So there was no valid restart to be delayed to begin with. And Rice got kicked. He got assaulted by Joel Veltman. He goes down and the ref shows up, flashes a red. Even the commentators thought it was a red to Veltman initially, only to find out that it was Rice. I know you have a rant to go on right now, so I'm not even going to set you up with a question. I'm just very irritated by it. It's very pedantic. It's very, very unfair, to be frank. It's just unfair. Like, this is a ref deciding to change a game, deciding a game instead of letting the players decide the game, I feel.
Agreed. I mean, like we said, all we were asking for is consistency. That there's a segment after the game, like the post match, that I think Tim Howard and Robbie Musto were on the call for
NBC.
Yes, and they were talking about how they just want common sense. Like, technically, in the letter of the law, sure, if he boots the ball, but he didn't boot it, barely touched the ball. But sure, in the letter of the law, it's a second yellow. It's a yellow card. But use common sense. When have you ever seen a player get sent off for that? And we all know we will never see it again. We all know we will never see it again. That Martinelli 2 yellows in the same phase of play, we've never seen that again. Ever. Like, it's just so egregious. Like, I just have to think sometimes in my head, like, okay, you did something stupid, fair enough. I'm thinking, if you walk away from it, or, whatever, then maybe he just, like, forgets about it. But I feel like referees kind of, like, stew on things, and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to give him a second yellow. I originally don't think he was going to give him that second yellow. When Declan Rice gets kicked, I think he thinks about it, and then he's like, you know what, yeah, I'm just going to give it. And I just, like, in my mind, I just don't understand how you would want to affect the game like that over something so stupid. It'd be like Arteta said in his press conference. If he had gotten that red card in the game, doing something like a tackle, like something that is deservedly a second yellow, fair enough. He deserved it. But you giving that second yellow over that is crazy, especially when you did not give a yellow for the exact same thing earlier in the game with João Pedro. He boots the ball halfway across the pitch to his own goalkeeper, and doesn't get a yellow. If you're going to give it for us, give it for them as well. But you guys never do that. And that is why fans complain. That's why fans complain all the time.
I mean, it's crazy. We saw, I think it was Michael Oliver. This was Chris Kavanaugh today, cunt. I think we saw Michael Oliver at Villa Park last week with the whole, what's his face? John McGinn kicked the ball at Saliba, then Ben White kicked the ball at John McGinn. And he pulled up and was like, hey, man, chill out. And that was the end of it. That was the end of it.
Talking to. Common sense.
And
But
you just decided.
But you also, if I want to complain about referees, we have also seen egregious things, not just for us. This season alone, Joelinton in the last game for Newcastle absolutely clotheslined the goalkeeper. He gets away with it. There are just some teams who just get away with that shit, and we are not one of them. We can't do anything.
We don't even try to get away with shit. We don't even do shit like
exactly. That. We don't even have a dirty team or anything. We don't even have like a henchman on the pitch who's trying to do stuff. Like, I know they try to make that be Ben White, but it's like, let's be real. He doesn't really do anything. He'll retaliate, but not for real.
I mean, and this is like cheeky shit. We're talking about like
exactly.
Playing with a goalkeeper's gloves is just funny. It's not dangerous. He's not aggressive.
He's just an elite rattler.
Fun. It's just fun banter. That's all it is, But yeah, that was Declan Rice's first red card ever. As a professional.
Oh my God.
This is a man that
can't help but laugh.
Yeah, Genuinely. This is a man that will probably be England's captain after Harry Kane retires. And some random ref just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna do some bullshit today. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent. And again, like, I started this section of the conversation by getting extremely pedantic about the rules of the game. Like, okay, by the letter of the law, he touched the ball and delayed the restart. But okay, for being that pedantic about it, there was no restart to take because the ball was in motion when Veltman tried to kick it. Agreed. So what the fuck are we talking about here? So by the letter of the law, it was wrong.
And if we're talking about violent conduct,
right?
Like, maybe I'm stretching a little bit, but if we're talking about violent conduct, I feel like commentators and people who are around the game tend to talk a lot about intent, which I hate, but They talk a lot about intent. You're like, oh, well, he was trying to kick the ball and Declan Rice stopped him. I'm like, he was looking at the ball. He knew exactly what he was doing. He went for Declan Rice's foot. He did not. Matter of fact, he kicked him in the knee.
He kicked him in the
kneecap, by the way.
He kicked him in the knee.
That was a high kick. And he's talking about, oh, well, he's stopping me from kicking up. You knew exactly where the ball was. Stop the nonsense.
I don't know. It's funny seeing football refs act like WWE refs when it suits them. It's fucking weird. It's weird, man. Like, just use your brains. That's all we ask for. In any event, we were now down to 10 men against a team that is not shy about using possession, and that obviously changed the game. At this point, because I live in a cursed part of America, my power went out, Gabby. So I don't know how we reacted in the moments before the substitution, because by the time I got power back, it was 1-1. I did see the goal eventually, but what happened in that period of time?
So we did what I feel like we always do when things aren't going our way or when the turn of the tide, like momentum goes against us, which I do not like, which is sit deep. We sit deep because we know we're a very good side out of possession. They trust themselves to defend well. And we were sitting so deep in our own half at home. Even I know we're down to 10 men, but I was like, guys, we got to get out. Like, we have to get out. We're just like, we're not trying to play out. We're just booting the ball. Nobody's up front. Martinelli wasn't on yet. So we didn't even have a runner, really. And I was just like, Arteta, either you have to change something or you have to give them instruction because they're just going to keep sitting deep for a while. Like, we can't keep doing that because eventually Brighton are going to score or they're going to get a really, really good chance. And we'll just have to hope that somebody clears it or David Raya saves it.
Right. And David Raya did save the chance because 7 minutes after the red card, Lewis Dunk, I guess in what we'd call a redemption moment for him, played a really lovely through ball through Arsenal's, I guess, all levels of our team, really, and went through the attackers that were pressing and went through the midfield and it went through the defense, through our central defenders for that matter, not a fullback and a center back. It went through Saliba and Gabriel. He played it into the path of Yakuba Minte, who took a shot. David Raya saved it. Yao Pedro came onto the rebound, empty net, finished 1-1 Brighton. At that stage, were you fearing that we would not get a result from this game?
You know, I wasn't. I wasn't. I was like, this is gonna get really cagey. We're gonna keep clearing things, but like, I was like, this is gonna be a draw. Drop points, unfortunately. I didn't think we were gonna get the win. Like I was hoping for a smash and grab, which is funny to say for a game at home, but
Right.
I was hoping for a snatch and grab. But I was like, this is probably gonna be a draw. I don't think that Brighton have the quality to break us down in the way that they probably should with 10 men. I know they created a lot of chances, but we were clearing a lot.
Honestly, I don't know that they created a lot of danger. They didn't create a lot of chances.
Yeah.
The only chance I recall besides the goal was there was a shot from Baleba from midfield. It got blocked, and the block took it to Ayari, and Raya had already dove in the wrong direction. So it was basically an empty net. So the guy plays it to where Raya is coming from, and Raya saves it with his feet. But short of that moment, I don't really remember much. Brighton had the ball.
Honestly,
Mitoma looked dangerous, but I don't remember a lot of chances.
That's what I was gonna say. My like warning signs or like the alarm bell was going off for Mitoma. Right. I was like, Mitoma against Ben White is like cash money. I love Benjamin, but like he has his number, and that's fair.
Well, he held his own for the most part, I thought, but I think Arteta took too long to move Timber out there. And when he did, that shit was dead immediately. But Timber then went off the pitch shortly afterwards. And we hope that's fine.
He is fine. It was precautionary.
Okay, good. I like a smart player that doesn't play until he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Good. But to Arsenal's credit, we made the most blocks in a game since like 2021 in that period. So we made like 8 blocks in that period after the red card, and I'm sure Gabriel
had like 4 of them. I can't lie.
I was gonna say it took like 1 to the head, 1 to the chest, 1 to the knee. Like he was
getting battered.
This is his kind of game. And I would argue that Arsenal actually created the better chances in the game. We should have won that game. The first chance, I forget who passed the ball to Kai, but it was essentially it wasn't quite a 1-on-1 because it was him and Van Hecke were kind of going at it. But he did well to get the shot off. He just needed to lift it over the goalkeeper. He hit the shot, but Bergen saves it with his foot. But if he had just lifted it a little bit, that's 2-1 to Arsenal.
I agree. I know that people will harp on that and be like, this is why we need a striker. But I'm like, listen, I've seen Holland do things like this.
Of course. I mean,
that's just a really good. And also, I can't even harp on the missed chance just because he literally worked so hard for it. Like, he worked so hard to create that chance for himself. And that's what I want to see from him. That is genuinely what he created that chance for himself, and it also in turn created a chance for Bukayo Saka right after.
Right.
We should have put the ball into the back of net. Unfortunately, we didn't. And then we also conceded possession after that because we should have had like possession to like relieve like stress from us. But like, oh, that was such a good chance. I was genuinely like impressed. I'm always impressed by Kai sometimes because he's just a smart player. But like when he uses his body well, that turn, like protect the ball and turn and hold off the defender to run into the box and even get the shot off, I was like, yeah, we might be cooking this season. We might actually be cooking this season.
Yeah, I think I like the signs. And as you mentioned, every striker misses chances. Like no matter how many goals they score, they miss chances. And you're probably going to miss more chances than you score. You know, the hope is that you're in a team where they create enough chances for you to be prolific as a goal scorer.
Agreed.
And I think Kai would definitely get chances. He'll get at least 1 good chance per half. Which is probably not enough, but it's a good place to start. Saka's chance was created by Havertz. Havertz had pulled out to the right wing where we'd usually see Saka, but after we brought Calafiori on for Trossard, we went to sort of like a 5 at the back, and we went with a front 2 that had Saka on the left and Kai on the right.
On the right. Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of what created the chance because I think number 5 played the ball over the top. Kai runs onto it, plays an early cross, and Sakai is stretching to get there. If he had like another millimeter, that's probably a goal, but he just didn't have enough power in that finish.
Oh my gosh, that was such good work. That the ball played out to him holding on and waiting, and just like sometimes I want them to just slow the game down and just like wait for your like actual attackers to like sprint past you so then they can like pass. And I've been asking Arsenal players to play the early ball for the last season. Like maybe a last season and a half, because we don't do it enough. We don't do it nearly enough. We always wait until everybody's set back in there. And I was like, he's going to play the ball early. And all I could think about was the game like North London Derby last season, at the end of the season at Tottenham Stadium, where he waits for Bukayo to sprint past, and then he just plays the ball over top to him. And I was like, oh, this might be cash money this season. It might be cash money. It was just a little bit too far for him. He got a good strike off, but it wasn't enough to score. Obviously, it was just an easy save for him, for the goalkeeper. But yeah, there was some good work. They were doing some good work to relieve the pressure down to 10 men. Genuinely.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the midfield before we get out of here. Ignoring the red card, what did you make of the five Rice Odegaard configuration today? I think none of them had their best game. Shockingly, when I think about it, which is going to be weird, and I know you're going to be fuming to hear this from me. I'd actually argue that five was the best of the three of them today, which is not saying much.
Somebody
it's a
said
low
that
bar.
too.
Yeah,
and I was just like, you know how I hate that. I hate this midfield.
Yes,
Absolutely hate it. I'm like, it just in my head, all I can think about is you spend $100 million on Declan Rice to be your six, and you're putting him out of position where he's not playing well to like accommodate somebody who's no longer a part of your plans anymore.
Well, that's the thing, Gabby. I think a lot of Arsenal fans, including you, make the assumption that number five isn't part of the plans anymore. But you're very obviously wrong, because
do you think he's a part of the plan still?
He's very much part of Arteta's plans for this season, as he was last season. If he's fit, Arteta is going to play him. He didn't pay $50 million for that.
I disagree, but go on.
No, if he's fit, he'll play him, because guess what? Jorginho is fit. He's not playing. And they're playing the same position.
It's not the Jorginho one, it's the Marino one. That's what
Marino's
I think about.
hurt.
Because if we're, yes, he's hurt, so right. He's going to be playing regardless. He's going to be playing for at least the next 2 months, or 6 to 8 weeks is what they say. But if they're all fit, I don't think he's in our midfield. I think it's Marino, Declan Rice, and Odegaard.
I agree, but I think we all like. Obviously, he's not going to get a new contract. Obviously, there's the off-field stuff that none of us like. Well, none of us with sense like, because some people act crazy about that shit. But ultimately, I think it's just one of the things. It's about resource allocation. We pay this motherfucker over $250,000 a week, and no one wanted to buy him. Like, I don't know that we ever really had a real opportunity to sell him, because even 2 summers ago, when Saudi were giving everyone money for bad players, there was never really a good bid for him. At least,
I think they went for less than 40 or something, and they didn't want to sell him for that.
Right. Because you think about, even though he's not the most reliable player, health-wise, when he's fit and firing, I remember there was once upon a time we were constantly talking about him and Rodri in the same sentence, and it didn't sound crazy at the time because he was that good. He hasn't been that good for a long time, but I do believe that Arteta rates him quite a bit. And that's
he definitely rates him.
Because post Jorginho, my whole thing is and Jorginho is also a player that Arteta rates quite a bit, who he tried to get Pep to buy when he was at City as an assistant. So he really likes that player too. And they're around the same age. But for whatever reason, which I think is that the player is in his plans for as long as he has a contract here, Arteta plays him. I do think that once Marino is healthy, he becomes a backup. That just makes sense to me. But I just think he's part of the plans for now. And I don't know that I can ask anyone to support someone that's been accused of the things that he's been accused of. But yeah, I think we just kind of need to get used to it until Marino's fit again, that he's going to be the first option. We're
definitely going to have to get at least until Marino comes back. Because it even infuriates me more, because I'm just thinking, now that Declan got that red card, and I know they may or may not challenge it, but even if they do, we're not going to win it. We never win challenges. No. So he's going to be out for the North London Derby, and that's going to be his midfield. Partey's the guy now. So they better figure it out. I don't even know how you configure that midfield. Do you keep him at the 6? Do you move him up and then put somewhere else? Because he was talking about putting maybe the Timbers an option in midfield, and I'm just
no, that's
I don't even know what you do here. Genuinely, because I personally cannot see a Jorginho and a Partey midfield with Odegaard. It just doesn't make sense to me to do that.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I know that there's not enough mobility in those 2 old dudes.
Yeah, that's what I mean, mobility-wise.
Yeah, I think we're just going to go with a double pivot, because, we basically think of the 6 as being this solo thing, but really no 6 really plays alone anymore in the modern game. It's a misnomer at this point. Even Rodri doesn't play alone. John Stones inverts to help him, or someone else. And I think you can just play Jorginho on one side of the pivot, play 5 on the other side of the pivot, and play Odegaard on top of him. So the assignments just change. So Odegaard contributes less to build up in a scenario like that. And we'll see. I still have a lot of confidence in that game. We might as well move on to that game. Then we do have an international break before that, don't? Or am I recalling this correctly? Let me look up the Arsenal schedule.
I don't know if it's before that game. But I know, like, all I can think about at international breaks, like, we have 2 before Mourinho come back. that's how I put it in my head, calendar-wise.
Right. Let's just take a look and confirm for the people.
At least 2 before Mourinho comes back.
Okay, so the Tottenham game isn't until September 15th. So yeah, there will be some sort of break before we see the boys again. And in that time, I think that should help from a fitness standpoint, but I do think we're probably going to see a midfield of Jorginho, 5, and Odegaard. And the one of them that's going to have more license to move forward will probably be 5. But in any event, I'm not too worried about it. Ideally, you want your £100 million signing in the team all the time. But
of course,
if Chris Kavanagh decides that he's going to be a twat about things, then I guess you just got to live with it. I think it's too early in the season to. I mean, obviously we're all disappointed. When you're competing with a team like 115 FC, every drop point feels like a disaster. I mean, this feels a bit like the Fulham game at the beginning of last season where we brought Fabio Vieira and Nketiah on and we took the lead and Fulham were down to 10 men and they somehow got an equalizer from a corner kick. This isn't as much of a gut punch as that, but I guess here's the thing. I really wish Arsenal would get more bad results from just being bad as a team, as opposed to some external
That's
factor.
The most frustrating thing.
It's always some ref shit, it feels like lately. Like the game away at Newcastle last season, the disallowed goal at Villa Park last season.
I was going to bring that up. This game felt like, I think I tweeted this game felt like the Fulham game from last season where we just dropped points and we're going to think about it at the end of the season. But honestly, it's probably more of the Newcastle game where we just got fucked. Because that game should have been a draw. It should have been a draw. It's just whatever. And I was just like, you know what? We all know we were always going to drop points in the season, and we know the margins are small. In my head, I think about it like this: City lost 3 games last season. We lost 5. We lost the title by 2 points. That's how small the margins are. That's just one of the games that we drew. Fair enough. Maybe we go to the Amex and slap them for 6. I hope we do.
Inshallah.
I hope he's playing. I hope he's playing.
Inshallah.
But yeah, we may or may not get beat the Fulhams or beat the West Hams or whatever, and we may drop points to the Big 6 this year because we won a lot of those games in the Big 6 last year. A lot of them. I think we lost maybe 1 game.
Yeah, I don't even particularly recall. Against the Big 6. I was gonna say I don't
either 1 game or no games. We might have won or drawn. I just
don't even know who the Big 6 is anymore. So, the shit changes every year. It feels like they set it up to try to move Arsenal out, but now that we're stuck at 2, I don't really care about who's beneath that. So it's whatever.
Yeah, I think we have enough to get over the line, and I'm more worried about the amount of games on these legs because there's a lot of games to play. There's a game every 3 or 4 days, and this next after the window, after the international break, those next couple games are hard. We got Tottenham away, we got Atalanta away, and then we got Man City away. That's some hard games. And you're going to be playing your best 11 every game.
Yeah. I think the good thing is that the players and the manager are aware that they've achieved things in the past that make them realize that they can do this. They can get good results in all of these games. So I'm not particularly worried. And again, it's early enough in the season that there's never one incident, last week, for instance, we had to hear a lot of, Aston Villa beat them and that's how they lost the season, lost listen, why wasn't it the Fulham draw from earlier in the season? It's the same points, right?
It was, and I keep saying it was the Fulham draw.
It's
Aston
never
Villa was
one
so
result.
Good last season.
It's never one result. And as a result of that, I would say it's early enough in the season that we can rectify this along the way. And the same pitfalls and traps that we face, other teams face as well. Other teams that are trying to win this face as well, even if City seem to never really slip up in these situations. But it's way too early to freak out. Yes, it's frustrating that we drew today, but we have a long season ahead of us. Tuck your anxiety because if you start getting crazy now, you're not going to make it. You're going to have a heart attack by February. So just be calm. We got this. It will be well. Gabby, anything else for the people before we get out of here?
because you never say it, I'll say it. Make sure you're following the Instagram page. They're trying to really push that Instagram page, okay? Like, they're gonna be on lives. They're making reels and shit
Yeah,
now. Like,
it's
niggas is
right beneath
working,
us here.
not
Like
me.
all our socials are right beneath us. Like so just follow all of those. Like, share, subscribe, review. The reviews help us with the algorithm and all that. So we appreciate all the support and we appreciate all the future support. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And Gabby, you know what to tell the people.
Peace.
Peace.